Uh, I sorry.
Yeah, this one can capture the baby.
Oh,
Yeah, they can use. Yeah.
I like
you can sit next to me.
Want me to put-
Yes. No.
like,
one.
This?
If you can project your voice, then you don't. You wanna use?
Sure. Yeah. Hello. Welcome everyone. Kat and I are going to be talking about our experience in the mangroves here in Malaysia. We spent a few days in the mangroves with Dr. Kishneth and students, and we're exploring the climate change impacts and policy direction to do with the mangroves. Oh, we So just like briefly on climate change, we know that it's altered the global temperatures, weather patterns and sea levels due to rising carbon dioxide emissions and other emissions. It disrupts the weather pattern and has like more frequent heat waves and ecosystem changes. For example, the rising sea levels can lead to the destruction of coastal wetlands like mangroves. So on this graph here, as you can see, the past 40 years, the carbon emissions in Malaysia have surged. So in 1980, it was 30 million tons, and last year it was 320 million tons. In 2021, Malaysia set a goal of 45% carbon reduction to achieve by the year 2030, which aligns with the Paris Agreement. By 2019, Malaysia had already reduced their emissions by 33%. Currently, Malaysia actually has quite a low performance, ranking 59th out of 63 countries in the Climate Change Performance Index. It relies on oil and gas, with subsidies posing challenges to transition to like a low carbon emissions. Their goal is to be carbon neutral by 2050, and steps for Malaysia include halting coal-fired power plants and introducing policies, which Kat will go into later. And there needs to be a balance between economic growth and environmental leadership. Next, please. So this is the carbon absorption power of mangroves. This is a photo of me with a 1 meter sample of the soil in the mangroves. So the mangroves actually store 60% of their carbon in the soil. So you can't really see from the photo, you're just gonna have to believe. It was like, so the carbon is absorbed in the top of the soil, so it was like down to here, and then the rest is like a lighter clay, and that is like no carbon in the bottom. So compared to inland trees, so as I said, Malaysia stores the carbon in the soil, but the trees usually store it in their leaves and roots. Malaysia's intricate network of roots are also super important with the nutrients in the mud. During high tides, the high tides act as a carbon sink and traps the greenhouse gas emission of soil. For a bit of perspective, a lake can absorb 0.8 tons per hectare, whereas mangroves can absorb 150 tons per hectare of carbon. Next, please. So Malaysia actually has the third largest mangrove area. As you can see here, it's quite significant, and they have a huge responsibility to protect and conserve the mangroves. Every year in Asia, 1.5% of mangroves are being lost. And if we convert that to 40 years' time, that's 60% of the mangroves being lost and destroyed. This is a distribution of the mangroves worldwide. So Malaysia's there, and that's Indonesia and Brazil. So why does this matter? Mangroves serve as a frontline defense against climate change with a complex root system, stabilizing coastlines, sequestering carbon, and providing a habitat for marine life and ecosystems. So these are some of the threats to Malaysians' mangroves. Obviously, climate change, rising sea levels, as I kind of discussed. So the water actually comes up and erodes some of the clay soil that the mangroves grow in. So it's actually kind of like eroding that area. In terms of like infrastructure, it's quite near like the coastlines will contribute to the threats. Yeah, coastal erosion and human activity as well. We saw a bit of rubbish and sometimes like illegal logging and overfishing, things like that. What also leads to mangroves destruction is wild storms. Actually leads to like a lot of the trees falling because they can't quite I guess they're just slightly different to normal trees. They don't like, they just fall easier. And non-native species as well can disrupt the mangrove ecosystem balance. Okay, so here's a few photos from our experience. We were really lucky to have the opportunity to explore and immerse ourselves in the mangroves. We were guided by Dr. Kishneth and his team of PhD students, and they shared their knowledge and passion with us about the qualities of the mangroves ecosystems and their importance. Our fieldwork involved getting stuck into data collection and observation. It was definitely eye-opening into the hard work of the students that then when they go and do this once every month. We documented root systems, took soil samples and measured the trunks to assess the tree health. So that's a photo of Kat and I measuring the tree trunks. And it was definitely difficult to walk through the mangroves despite calculating the tides to try and avoid the too much water. So we've developed a deep appreciation for the mangroves, as you can see, and the efforts dedicated to their conservation. Despite challenges, we had a really valuable experience, and it's just fostered a stronger connection with nature and the coastlines of Malaysia. And we'll pass over to Kat now.
Thank you, Yaz. I might put this down, but I have a really loud voice, so I don't really want to deafen anyone. Okay, hello everyone. I'm going to be speaking to you, if you want to go to the next slide, about Malaysian mangrove protection. So we focused on a few research questions, namely, what policies does Malaysia currently have in place to protect their mangroves? What are other nations doing to protect their mangrove areas? And what could we learn from these international comparisons? Next. So looking at the Malaysian example, Malaysia has made many strides in the past couple of decades in stepping up measures to protect their mangroves. So there's been a range of designated protected areas, including Sungai Pulai and the Kuching wetlands. Also in 1994, Malaysia became a signatory to the Ramsar Convention. And since signing this convention, there have been 134,000 hectares of designated protection sites, especially from things like, so despite these efforts, 50% of mangrove cover has been lost in the past 10 years, according to the Climate Change Protection Council. So looking to other places in the world, what are other nations doing to protect their mangroves? So first looking at Thailand, if you want to go to the next. Yeah, no, sorry. Back, yeah. That's right. So Thailand has a very comprehensive national policy towards conservation and rehabilitation of its mangroves. And I think one of the really strong elements of the Thai protection mechanisms is its community involvement. So there's actually been a real big uptake in community participation, which has been well supported by government and non-government organisations. Thailand has also strengthened its legal frameworks regarding these areas, and it actually has 34% of mangroves under some type of protection, which is quite a high number in comparison to other countries. So this has been really significant in helping to restore these areas and meet some of those goals of protecting coastal and biodiversity. So looking now to Tonga, Tonga has recently really been working on revising and updating its legislation. So it's really worked on making laws that balance its need to develop and its need for ecological protection. So really taking both into account. And again, like Thailand, there has been a lot of community-based development projects, and non-government organisations and a lot of international organisations have a big role in supporting Tonga in these efforts. And I think that's why they've been so powerful in increasing awareness and restoration projects. On to the next one. So looking to Australia, Australia has a very comprehensive approach towards mangrove protection. It has an extensive group of conservation areas, and it has a very strong scientific approach towards marine protection. So it's obviously very well resourced and funded, which allows, you know, significant investment into things like monitoring. And this has actually had really good results for the country. So there's a really strong aim at integration. So actually taking into account for these areas before we do things like urban or coastal development, these things actually have to be accounted for before those things can take place. And this has led to 18% of mangroves being officially protected, which is above the international average of about 13%. On to the next one. And finally, Indonesia has a very strong national approach. It's actually the most ambitious, as it should be, seeing as they have the largest mangrove area in the entire world. So they have the Mangrove Restoration Program, which aims to restore 600,000 hectares of mangrove areas. And it also has 24 million hectares of marine protected areas. So that's quite a significant amount. One thing that's really been up and coming in Indonesia is technological integration. So there's recently been the introduction of something called the Mong Meng app. which is something that community members can access on their mobile devices, and they can essentially report and monitor the health of the mangroves to the relevant authorities really easily from their phones. So that's really helping to improve that community involvement. So there's actually been some really positive trends in slowing mangrove loss, and there's a really strong focus on all organisations working together to achieve this goal. So what could Malaysia learn from these examples? So enhanced enforcement and monitoring could be really important in the Malaysian context. And it's especially strengthening legal frameworks to ensure that corporation and urban developers can't just come in and build over the top of these sites or build in close proximity where they're actually going to do more damage. And while local communities in Malaysia have a really positive attitude around protecting the mangroves, they're not necessarily getting the resources or the support that they require to make those positive impacts, which they might wish to. Like is done in the Australian context, integration into coastal management plans would be essential to ensure that urban development has to actually account for these mangroves before they can just go ahead. Working internationally with other organisations would ensure best practice standards in the Malaysian context. And finally, offering economic incentives to individuals and businesses for things like ecotourism and engaging in sustainable practice could really help to incentivise further protection. Going forward, what can we do as students? We've obviously been really inspired by the students we work with. They do such amazing and really difficult work as well. So raising awareness, engaging in educational campaigns like this one is something really important. Promoting general sustainability, so reducing our plastic use, eating sustainable seafoods is something that can have a really big impact. Engaging in citizen science like we're doing now, taking our information to others. And in the Malaysian context, people here could advocate for policy change by writing to their local members of government. And in the Australian context, we can support them by signing petitions offered by international organisations, supporting conservation organisations through donation or volunteering is helpful. And finally, local actions. So actually going into the mangroves here or in Australia, monitoring the health, getting that real hands-on experience, I think is something we should all experience at least once in our lifetime. So going forward, our work will be continuing when we get back to Melbourne. We have created an interactive presentation to help engage primary school students and teach them about the really amazing carbon absorption power of mangroves. We really feel as though so many people are aware of, the importance of planting trees and protecting rainforests, and mangroves are sort of lesser known, maybe especially in our country. So just being able to show this sort of information, we feel could have a great impact. And that's it. Thank you so much. And I hope you guys learned about mangroves. Let me sit down.
Q&A.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Kat. And yes. Question, if any, because we do have allocation of. Any question? Yes.
Yes, so mentioned that Um, there was a lot to it. I feel like it was good to go in with no expectations of, because it was like, it was humid. It was actually a bit cooler than the city, but it was so humid, and just like the mental preparation, I don't think was there, but we it was a great experience, and yeah, we got through it, and we got like, you guys helped us, like, you taught us all about like what you're doing. We got to have a look at previous data they've collected, so we could actually see the tree growth and all like the yeah, the data points and stuff like that. So just, yeah, in general, great experience. Is there anything specific? Anything else? I don't know. Good things. Yeah.
Essentially, um,
Yeah. Yeah. Couple days, nothing.
Hello. Hi. I don't know if someone else is speaking. Is it okay if I ask a question?
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, yes. Thank you so much for this amazing presentation, and thank you to the students who assisted you in the field work. I have two questions. One is, if you could now, through your research, suggest to Malaysia one immediate thing they could do that maybe some other country has done, which could really protect and help with the mangroves, what would you suggest? And my second question is about the impact this visit has had on you. Can you share a little bit about, do you think this was a transformative experience, and in what way, if it was?
So for the first question about what other countries could do, it's just all about mangrove protection and conservation. So when we went out to the mangroves, that wasn't a protected area. It was more of like a public area, I would say. But there are a few protected areas in Malaysia, and that would just help like cultivate and grow the mangroves, and just help them to become like healthier, and try and like at least keep what Malaysia has now. Did you want to add anything? Yeah. So yeah, that will like definitely help to keep, yeah, preserve the mangroves and the ecosystem, which is super important. And for the second question, oh, it was how this experience has impacted. Is that right? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, as touched on as well, like it's just an experience like no other. Kat said everyone should experience this once in their lifetime. I agree. It would have honestly been nice to do like a little bit more, but then maybe I should start studying like science or something. We'll see. No, but super impactful. Like I'll remember this, and it's really important to keep in mind when I'm doing further studies and going into like workplaces and things like that. And I think the overall message for this as well is just like about balance and the importance of the ecosystems of the mangroves. So that's really stuck with me. And it was great experience with yeah, the students. It was just, we were so lucky. Yeah, I think we both feel the same, just like super lucky. You know, they looked after us. They didn't make us feel like we didn't know anything. They were just so willing to share everything, all of their knowledge. So yeah, it was amazing. Anything? Okay.
Please say a word. Yeah, please. Yeah, you can go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Hi. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. All right. Yeah, congratulations on your presentation. I think you've done a pretty good job for the limited time you have had. And yes, I would like to commend you that you actually did perfectly well in the mangroves, especially when it's your first time going to the mangrove. Well, I'm actually really interested in one thing which you highlighted during your presentation. It's actually the initiative by the Indonesians and setting up an app or something. Is that what I think Kat, you did mention something about an app developed by the Indonesians for the public to report
Yeah, in my
conditions or health of the mangroves.
I'll send you through the details, but they're actually.
I think the audio is pretty bad. I can't hear you clearly. But anyway, if you can hear me clearly, but it'd be very nice if you can provide us some information about the app which was
Yes.
developed by the Indonesians.
I will send you through the details of that app. Thank you, Doctor. And I also read apparently there's recently been another initiative started in Malaysia very recently where they've started, I believe it was called Connected Mangroves, and they've started installing sensors in mangrove areas. So that would save you guys sinking in the mud for at least some of the time. So yeah, I'll send you through the details of those. Thank you so much for your support through this project.
All right, thank you.
Okay, now we proceed with group number 2.
Sure, quickly. I just want to quickly check.
Yeah, I'll just double check that everything's updated.
Yes.
Yes. Yep, that should all be all right.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for coming here and listening to what we have to say, especially to Dr. Maha. Our project and our research question is how climate change and climate action can be effectively communicated to influence change of behaviour and policies. So I'm Isabel and I'm studying psychology. This is Ruby, she's studying neuroscience, and Wishay is studying law. So we have 3 different perspectives that we're going to examine the last 2 weeks on, and we hope you enjoy it. That's not our PowerPoint.
Oh, yeah. So one of the key things that we have looked at in this is the importance of science communication in relations to climate change. So a quote I found from Sinclair on this study here about addressing how we talk about climate change is climate change is primarily a problem of human behaviour, which is something that we have been looking at extensively over the last 2 weeks. We need to find ways to address this issue that's clear, concise, and that people can engage with and feel that they can make a difference. As sometimes it can feel like, what does it matter if I use a plastic straw instead of a paper one when it's this large, giant issue? So coming up with not just things that people can do to alter their behavior, but why their behavior should be changed and ways that they can do it that is easy enough for them to implement without too much impact on their daily lives. Yes.
All right, so I'm not going to use it because I need my hands. So last Monday, Beta and myself attended the Sunway Group and European Union partnership event. It was our first interaction with Sunway, and we realised there was a lot to learn from them. Okay. Sorry. This partnership marked a significant milestone as both parties have a profound impact on our society. Their collaboration is rooted in the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly number 17 for Partnership for the Goals. Their intention was to advance a wide range of joint sustainability initiatives, which they formalised by signing a letter of intent. While the event did delve into it did not delve into the specific actions that they were going to take, which did raise concerns about potential greenwashing. It did highlight their commitment to sustainability nevertheless. We discovered that Sunway Group encompasses Sunway University, Sunway College, Sunway Medical Centre, and much more. Next slide. This discovery led to our connection with Dr. Yap, who is a lecturer at Sunway University. During our meeting with him, he enlightened us about Sunway's sustainability efforts. When Sunway was first founded, it was a wasteland, an old mining station, which you can see here, and they've now transformed it into a lagoon where the mining station was. This demonstrates their long-standing commitment to sustainability. Next slide. Upon arriving at the university, we were amazed to see the Sustainable Development Goals all throughout the campus. They had stalls promoting sustainability, including primary school children showcasing their efforts by recycling t-shirts into washing bags. We were amazed. You can see here like all the goals. Dr. Yap explained how their actions are all linked back to the Sustainable Development Goals. I spoke with students who informed me that studying the goals is part of their curriculum. Sunway is a leading force into sustainable efforts from businesses. Some of their initiatives include the 15-minute cities, where it's all accessible in there. They've got public transport and canopies where they can walk, so it's all shaded. They've got a white tiger conservation on site, so we got to see white tigers. Solar panels on the vast majority of their buildings, and they're also comprising the private sector, civil society and educational institutes to assist in resolving the quality of life issue in Desa Mentari, which is a community that is lower socioeconomic, which has about 30,000 people in it. So he invited us to an event where Professor Jeffrey Sachs, president of the Sustainable Development Solutions Network, and the UN resident coordinator spoke about the upcoming UN Summit for the Future. The event was insightful and left us feeling very inspired. The United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions headquarters is now based in Sunway City. Sunway's overall aim is to achieve net zero by 2050. We can all see Sunway as a role model for how they're implementing the Sustainable Development Goals in their businesses and institutions.
While Wishire attended the Sunway signing event, myself and Izzy were honoured to attend a lecture put on by Sir Paul Nurse, who won a Nobel laureate in 2001 in physiology or medicine for his work on finding proteins that assist in cell division and replication. And the main question that he wanted to investigate or answer was, what is life? What is it that links all of the life forms together? So he used 5 key concepts as the basis of what is life. He looked at the cell, the gene, life as chemistry, life as information, and evolution by natural selection. and how all of these 5 concepts link together, such as how the cell is the smallest organism, but each of those organisms are used as a complex system that work together as a whole to form an organism. So based off of this, he looked at how we are all connected to the origins of life and the universe through an unbroken chain of cell divisions. If you trace our history back to the Big Bang, everything since has been a cell division after cell division of mitosis or meiosis, which means that we are all linked with every other life form. Based off of this, we have an interconnectedness with every other life form and a responsibility to care for them as the only ones that we know of with consciousness and an understanding of what we are doing to our planet.
Last Thursday, we were invited by Dr. Maha to attend a pitching or how to pitch panel. We were working with the undergraduate biotechnology students to listen to their 5-minute pitch about a product that they had designed and manufactured over their semester. We acted as the potential stakeholders and were able to liaise with them and ask questions as if we were investing in their company. This was a really valuable experience for all of us because none of us come from a marketing or business background. So I think everything that we learned from the students and the doctors was really useful, and we'll be able to take it through our life. So there was 2 products. The first product was a herbal tea designed to assist with sleep, and a chocolate bar, which was designed to reduce cholesterol levels. What we learned from the students and through the feedback from everyone is when you're pitching, tone and body language is really important, and understanding who you're pitching to and how their behavior and your behavior interact. Secondly, having science to back up your product or business is really important, especially in a biotechnology unit. Ensure when you're delivering a pitch, especially 5 minutes is not much time to get your point across, that each slide you have an active message that your potential stakeholders can see and quickly understand what you're getting at. So this we found linked to the 3 up here of the sustainability goals. So climate action, partnerships for the goals, and decent work and economic growth. Next slide, please.
So during our cultural immersion trips, we were introduced to the Lost Food Project, which is an NGO dedicated to a sustainable future by rescuing lost food and finding a new home with people who need it most. As you can see here, about 1/3 of the food produced in the world is either lost or wasted, and in Malaysia alone, 4,000 tons of edible food is thrown away each day, which is enough to feed 10 million people every single day. As part of our involvement, we rescued bread from local bakeries and gave them to local organisations such as the Peace Education Centre and the Seed Foundation. We took part in the unloading and sorting out of the lost vegetables last Wednesday, which later got distributed to local communities. We then gave a presentation to the local school, which I'll leave Izzy to inform you on.
So yesterday we were invited by Dr. Maha and the Lorong Java School to deliver a 10 to 15 minute presentation to students about what we've learned over the last 2 weeks. So we decided to take the Lost Food Project and kind of condense it down very small to deliver a presentation about what is food waste and how we as individuals can assist in reducing food waste and assist in climate change. It was more of an interactive session as the language barrier was quite difficult to speak to the children. Luckily, we had Dr. Maha there to translate for us. But what we found is that most of the students at this school were very well educated and had quite a great grasp of what food waste is and what climate action and climate change is. But more they were kind of lacking what they can do, especially at the school. We didn't really see any food waste like bins or appropriate recycling bins. So we thought that a good solution for schools, or this school that we saw in Australia there, or where I work, there's 4 different bins that you can pop your waste in. There's a recycling bin, a food bin, a paper bin, and a plastic bin. We thought this could be a really good initiative for primary schools and secondary schools to adapt in Malaysia. I don't know if they have this at every school, but we didn't see it there. So that's our potential solution or suggestion for this school and those students. But it was really good to be able to observe the children's behaviour and how they interacted with us. And it was an invaluable experience.
Another event that we were able to attend was the opening of the National Bioeconomy Showcase. Unfortunately, we won't be able to attend the actual showcase as it is the weekend of the 17th to 18th of July. But at the opening, we were able to see that their aims are of increasing innovation in the biotechnology sphere and making it more accessible and more financially affordable for the everyday person or for students and academics to get involved. So the event wishes to open up to students, entrepreneurs, companies, businesses, people from the public, anyone who is interested in looking into bioeconomy and its solutions are more than welcome to join. One of the main companies that spoke at the opening was the Alps Life Ethical Sites, and their big aim, as stated at it, was to build a fully integrated bench-to-bedside biotech platform in Southeast Asia. They want to look at bringing biotechnological solutions to the doorsteps of an average everyday Malaysian citizen, providing them with better healthcare that is more affordable and more effective. So their current research is looking at gene profiling and sequencing, mainly for being able to have extremely early identification systems for cancer. Regenerative medicine, which can be useful in pulmonary diseases and diabetes, and stem cell research and immunotherapy, mainly for improvements in cancer treatments once again, and even Alzheimer's disease. So all of this is very big and broad. How does it actually contribute to a solution to climate change? Unfortunately, there is no nice, neat cookie cutter solution to climate change. If that were the case, we wouldn't be here. This wouldn't be an issue we'd have to look at. So instead, what we have decided to aim on is how can we bring climate change to the everyday person, make them aware of the science and what will happen if we don't take action and the ways that we can take action as an individual, and even what our individual voice can say for, the global scale. It affects everyone in every aspect of life. And it's something that we need to look at how we can communicate this. And that is something that we have been able to learn and experience over the last 2 weeks, looking at how all of these different branches of science and technology and education have been able to bring a more sustainable future to Malaysia.
So what are we doing now? We all have the privilege to be able to publish an article in the Petri Dish, which is a science communication journal, which Dr. Maha will be working with continuously. This will be a 700 to 800 article, a 700 to 800 word article. Ruby and I will be discussing what is life. So we will be summarizing what we learned from Sir John Nurse, and Michelle will be discussing the Sunway group. So this will be published in the August edition. So we'll be working on this in the coming weeks once we get back to Australia.
We will also be extending our science communication of climate change aims to a primary school in Melbourne, Australia, giving them a more easily accessible presentation about what climate change is, how they can do individual changes to stop it, and even maybe some of the larger level global changes that may need to happen to hit the 2050 net zero goal that's been put out by the UN.
We are also in discussion with publishing in the Conversation in Australia, which is a huge media platform in Australia for those not from there. And our focus for that will be on the Lost Food Project in Malaysia and comparing it to food banks in Australia. As in Australia, we've got very different issues as we are a larger country, but with less people. So how can we get the food to communities that are quite remote in time? So yeah, I believe that's everything. Yeah, so any questions?
Thank you very much. Yes, once again, open the floor for
Go. Well, we've been creating some networks, Peter and myself, and like all of us, and we've got some people to interview with that. So we're yet to interview Daniel, who we met earlier, the Lost Food Project. And then they've got the summit coming up this September in Sydney for Food Bank Global, like the global network. So we're hoping to get some connections there so we can, yeah, we're still kind of, it's very early days for it, but thank you.
You said the challenges between the different of the two. I think what we've discussed as a group is that clearly Australia is massive. So like, if you look at the Northern Territory and South Australia, it's not like Malaysia, like it's not a 20-minute drive to just drop off Woolies leftovers. Unfortunately, it's rural, it's hot, it's a desert, it's not accessible. So I think we're going to try and aim to try and come up with maybe not a solution, but like just look at how it could be more accessible for people. We thought of AIR, like Royal Australian Doctor Service, and like maybe that's already been explored, but that's the angle that we're looking at it. So making it more accessible for the people, because the Northern Territory is our most not unfortunate. Yeah. Sorry.
Food waste is affecting climate change. So this article that we'll write will also have a huge focus on how it is affecting climate change, even just to spread awareness and also remind people of the impact they can make with just being more conscious with food. Any other questions? I guess.
The large concept of the warming effect. Each life form is that why, but it can be difficult for people living in a world without
I think we can also link that back to how you were saying the importance of mangroves and how every I'm not from a science background, so I might use the wrong terminology, but everything like has a huge impact on this earth, and that's why we need that biodiversity to show that we all are related, connected, and related, and have a huge impact on this earth. I think there's a question there.
Yeah. Congrats. Very well. One of the slides after you have presented, you said, how does this work, right? With the question mark. So I want that question back. Because I know I pushed you outside your comfort zone. I know it very well. I know there might have been some who are unhappy because of the dynamic resistance you might not have but you did not. You were all within the walls and with people. Now I want to ask you, because I want to watch it, gotten back from all the titles, how does that all connect? That's my first question.
There is an importance in gathering the data and seeing the field that actually the effect the reflect on and report as the other two groups have done. But there's also an importance in taking that information and bringing it to the general audience. You can't just come up with the results and say, okay, mangroves take 10 times more carbon dioxide from the atmosphere than trees, and then leave it at that. You need to then look at, okay, if that's the case, what policies can we take to protect the mangroves and encourage more mangrove planting initiatives, as well as planting trees, rather than just focusing on rainforests. And we have been able to experience a lot of those talks and a lot of being able to witness extremely powerful people who I haven't been able to interact with before in my life, honestly. Be in the same room as us and all get the same message out of it and feel like there is something that needs to be done and feel like the people who are listening can make the changes that need to occur. Yeah. Yeah.
Event with the minister. How do you relate that to what they have done, what they are doing, and also you lost food?
Okay, thank you. I think from a psychological perspective, we are the ones harming the planet. So we need to understand humans and how we behave and how we can change people's behavior in a correct way without infuriating them more or like assisting. We just need to understand them more, and also we need to understand how the policy that we bring in, especially in Australia, how that impacts people. I come from a military background. I get policy slammed in my face every day. I don't know, we never get discussed or like we never have a sit down. It's like, how's this going to impact you? I think having that experience and seeing how important climate change and especially food waste is, talking to the people on the ground is so crucial, and being able to understand their perspectives, what they think is important, because they're the ones that are doing the work. They're the ones that are trying to make it better. And if we try to change policy and legal frameworks without liaising with them, it's not going to be positive. It's just going to be a constant cycle where nothing gets done. But yeah, I didn't attend the minister one, so I'll pass that over to Michelle.
The events we attended, which were the first Sunway event and then the United Nations one we went to yesterday, both people there said that we need to stop just doing all these policies, all these big events, and we actually need to take action. And I think, like, I am so grateful for what we've done here and attended, but how can we actually get that out to the broader community? Because the broader community doesn't want to learn about science. They've got no interest. So how can we get into like their emotions and actually get them to want to take action? Even if like at one point it was like a trend to have a metal straw. That is a positive impact. If that's all it's gonna like, you've got to start looking at other avenues because majority of people don't want to know about science. How can we actually get to them? Yeah. Yeah. He hasn't unmuted himself.
Yeah, okay, sorry. We're not able to hear the questions in the back, so I'm not sure if somebody else is speaking. First of all, amazing presentation. I really loved the way you covered so many different aspects. And I also want to thank Dr. Maha for this incredible experience that she gave you all. It's amazing to see the number of different events you attended in such a short time. And I think it's like just hats off to her for making this happen. And also Beta for encouraging this, supporting this, and she's done amazing work. My question is, and I think one of you kind of already started answering, but I know you said you're from different disciplines. So I'd like to know how this experience has, sort of given you some insights that you can use in your own disciplines and in your own careers for the future.
I think we'll probably answer this individually. So I'm doing a health science and neuroscience based course. So even though most of it is on the biology of humans, I am still very much in that STEM science field. So for my own career and future, it's been really fascinating to see how technological innovations, scientific innovations are presented and can be used for a greater purpose, that we can provide better healthcare and better support for people and also do it in a sustainable way that contributes to the world, not just the bottom line. And I found that quite fascinating and extremely useful for my career going forward.
Thank you. So I study law and I'm definitely not your typical lawyer, firstly bad at public speaking. But I actually did a little extra thing today and I organised to meet up with the High Commissioner of Australia. And she advised me, don't go into government for what I want to do. And she said, work for a separate organisation where you can influence the policy and also challenge it as well. And how you can take steps without always following all those regulations to actually take the action. Because you see, like I keep referencing the United Nations, but they've got all these incredible like draftings and stuff, but they have no power to actually enforce it because of state sovereignty and all that. So how can we actually, I'm just like with my future career, I'm going, how can I actually make a difference? Not just write the policy, but actually implement it. Yeah, thank you.
Whatever you think.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. Yes.
Hi, Anita. I'm studying psychology. So unfortunately, I'm in the government sector. So I day in, day out see policy being made at the highest level in our government and how it influences the lowest ranks or lowest people, unfortunately to say. And it's sad to watch. Australia needs an overhaul of, well, I'm not going to finish that sentence, but we need to understand our people better. We need to know what makes people tick. We need to know what they need on every aspect of life, not just climate change. I think this experience is really what Australia just said. I want to try and somehow make a difference. I'm not sure how that is, but I think it's definitely given me a bit more of a drive to try and make a difference outside the government and really talk to the people and see how we can assist our country moving forward. So yeah,
Again, easy, this is what we do.
yeah.
Right? The policies are made by someone who sits there in Canberra,
Mm.
or in Putrajaya, without understanding what is really happening on the ground.
Yeah.
And trying to give what's the where, if all the things that you attended will help us, with us, but then that helps us to treat the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, now we have the last three. Oh, oh, okay. Oh, okay, sure.
Just check if it's.
Bring it back to the.
Check it.
Yeah, if it's done, take it one.
Bottom of what? Bring it back? Okay, is there anything after?
Okay. So this is the red file. Okay. Sounds good.
Is there any way I also said the computer a long process of long process of so when you
Yeah, if you want to be essentially.
I only have 3 minutes.
Yeah. Just a bit.
Yeah. You want to start with names? Alright, with names, I don't know.
okay, but do you want to use because you are standing there, they online they won't be able to hear. Okay.
Hello everyone. I'm studying aviation. Hello.
It's on. Yeah. Yes.
Hello everyone, my name is Sally and I'm studying law. Good afternoon, everyone. On Monday, the 1st of July, we journeyed out to the Royal Bellin Rainforest alongside with Dr. Michelle. We took this experience with an open mind to explore the flora and fauna of the Royal Bellin Forest. This was a great opportunity to meet the Orang Asli people and to understand their way of life within the rainforest. With the help of Dr. Michelle, we were able to ask some questions regarding their impact, problems, and views on the Royal Bellin Forest. As we each come from different disciplines, we use our own backgrounds to provide a unique perspective on addressing biodiversity, climate change, with reference to the 17 Goals of Sustainable Development.
So on behalf of Chloe, I'll try and speak on her behalf. We had a look at biodiversity and how the rainforest works as a whole ecosystem. So we can start from the top down, the trees, they sequester carbon and then they wilt, they go down to the ground, that decomposes and other animals will continue down on the food chain. On the far right there, you can see what is elephant poo. Kind of funny, but there's already something growing out of it. So everywhere you look, there is life. There's life absolutely everywhere, and we still don't really understand fully how each organism contributes. So you could take one thing out, like this poor little leech here, which some of us wish there was no leeches, but if you did that, you don't know how the whole ecosystem is going to react. So as a whole, it's one full system. One thing we wanted to find was a worm from Dr. Michelle's perspective. We didn't find it, but that's one other example that we're still trying to learn how these things fit in. So the rainforest as a whole sequesters and stores terrestrial carbon. Now, we heard earlier that the mangroves are very good at sequestering carbon, and that goes through the process quite quickly. Where rainforests come into play is the storage. They store mass amounts of carbon. So Royal Bellum on its own stores 185 megagrams of carbon per hectare. That's 21 million tons, which is epic. Like, this one tree was one of the biggest trees we saw. An example like this would hold up to 60 kilograms of carbon alone, which is epic. And 2 trees in the rainforest would provide one person with oxygen for the whole year. So the way that the process works is phenomenal. It's so much so that they regulate the Earth's temperature and the weather. So water will come down and it will evaporate. It will also create more rain in the rest of the world. And in 2020, they did a study and they measured temperature, rainfall, pressure, and humidity since 1991, and they'd all significantly increased. And it's having a huge effect on the rainforests as we speak, because an increased amount of rain, for example, will erode a lot of the soils and it will interrupt the decomposing of leaves and such. So it is threatening carbon dioxide absorption, and that will obviously slowly, but it will degrade the forests and their ability to sequester carbon. And we can see that the SDG goals, of course, climate action is huge for this one, and life on land through the terrestrial ecosystem.
I will be speaking about the history and background of Royal Bellum State Park. So currently the park is over 130 million years old, which is one of the most ancient rainforests in the world. During British occupancy, the area was placed in the Perak State Forestry. It arrived in 1909. Parsley typically move frequently, such as when bad events. This is prior to the protection from the Perak State Parks Corporation and prior to modern times, the Orang Asli were quite vulnerable and were not heavily protected. Due to fear of the region being unsafe, no development occurred for a large period of time, as it was deemed a black area and a state of emergency occurred between 1948 to 1989. This was due to the increased presence of the Malaya Communist Party, which was undertaking guerrilla warfare tactics and also encroaching on Orang Asli settlements during this period. This eventually ceased with the Haye Accord being signed in 1989, which eventually allowed for peace in the area. Prior to the insurgency, settlements were often, the Temangor Dam and the East-West Highway were developed for economic development and also as a strategy to prevent the Malaya communists from further encroaching towards Malaysia. This period of time actually inadvertently assisted with protecting against commercialization and exploitation of the natural resources. And yet it also has left gaps in understanding for the scientific community, as unfortunately the area was quite unsafe for a large period of time. It's just next slide. Okay. Further history includes that largely protection has occurred from recognition of the Sultanate and National Heritage listing Currently, this is assisted with providing red and yellow zones, which prevent activities such as hunting or allows for hunting only specifically for the Orang Asli people. However, some discrepancies still exist between Orang Asli interests and Malaysian interests. Next slide. The context behind that video was Jahan speaking about how he missed his prior life before being resettled. Currently, they used to live in that space that is now the dam, but now they've been resettled to a new area. That's the next slide. Now we'll be discussing some of the laws that impact the park. So these are some notable laws. Royal Bellum is currently seeking protection from UNESCO, which is the next one that I'll also be focusing on. UNESCO offers large conservation protections from exploitation of resources, but I will also be discussing a few limitations which are attached to climate change protection, as they're not always humanistic in our viewpoint. Okay, so that's some background of UNESCO. Largely, UNESCO is an affiliate of the United Nations, and it is based in France. It does prevent the exploitation of resources and protects areas of significance from intrusive practices, but there are some further considerations which I'll be discussing. So UNESCO often removes the human element and can act restrictively. When we discussed with Jahan, he mentioned that he actually was unsure what it would bring if UNESCO UNESCO qualification occurs. He knows that his rights might be infringed, but discussion hasn't really occurred. So as a stakeholder, Jahan is actually not unsure. And I assume that would also be correct for the rest of the Orang Asli. And Jahan's fears might not actually be too far off. Currently, the Orang Asli are unable to fish or exploit some areas of the park, while other areas are Orang Asli specific. However, UNESCO constraints can mean the right to exploit resources can be removed entirely, as is the case for what had occurred in Thailand to the Kain Krachan Indigenous community, who have been relocated, forced to find new livelihoods, as well as deemed as trespassing when attempting to return to their ancestral homes, which is just in the corner there. As an international superpower, UNESCO provides a David versus Goliath possibility for the vulnerable Orang Asli. Additionally, UNESCO listing assumes the inability to self-governance, where the Orang Asli will be at the mercy of an organisation that hails from France. This also assumes the current protections from the Malaysian government are not enough and can raise concerns about autonomy. This may also remove rights afforded to the Orang Asli, such as permissions to hunt. UNESCO listings can also lead to intense tourist development. Whilst the Orang Asli wish for more tourism, this may inadvertently lead to further environmental concerns from outsiders who may not respect the ways of the park, such as the inability to remove resources from the park, which we discovered when we were at the at Royal Bellum. UNESCO also assumes external jurisdictions have greater knowledge and implies a colonial view that Western countries, the countries with significant influence in the United Nations, are superior than the own parks management. Arguably, this perspective is incorrect, as the park is over 130 million years old and has been free of influence for a lot longer than that. And then from the next. And then this is like a practical consideration. So from the top is an excerpt from the United Nations, from UNESCO, which they state that the authenticity of the park has not been tampered with and that it's currently pristine, undisturbed, and protected. As you can see, there are slight disturbances. It's not as pristine as they claim. So it almost is as if an outsider is coming in and saying, we'll run the park how we want to, and you'll be at our mercy.
I'll be coming from the aviation perspective. So living in the rainforest, the Orang Asli people mostly use motorboats to get from place to place, which produces large amounts of carbon dioxide emissions into the atmosphere, accounting for nearly 3% of the world's carbon emissions. The Orang Asli people are hoping to encourage more tourists to come to the rainforest as well. So some alternative sustainable biofuels could greatly reduce the motorboat's harmful impacts on the environment. Biomethanol is a potential option to reduce greenhouse gases. Renewable biomethanol is produced from biomass as such forestry, agricultural waste, and bioproducts. It can be used on its own or mixed with gasoline as well. The use of biomethanol could greatly result in lower soot formation, lower combustion temperatures, and will furthermore result in lower carbon emissions. Another issue the Orang Asli people mentioned is illegal logging. Although there are rules and regulations to prevent illegal logging, it is still seen as an issue today. After speaking with the Orang Asli people, they are looking to include more modern technologies within their day-to-day lives. Therefore, the use of drones could be a great option for quick and easy surveillance of the forest. Drones can be battery operated or gas operated with flight times of up to 8 hours and the ability to fly anywhere from 100 kilometers to 200 kilometers from the operator. Also, when using the autopilot function, could also save a lot of time for the Orang Asli people. They're still able to go about their days as normal, whilst a drone can collect all the necessary footage they will need without any human operation. Drones have many benefits that can be used to survey for logging, as well as monitor tree growth, as well as thermal imaging cameras can also be used to locate animals, track people, making drones just an easy and sustainable option that the Orang Asli people could potentially be open to, as they are hoping to include more modern day technologies into their practices.
So coming back to a psychological perspective, tourism is a threat to their ecosystem, but we can also see it as a bit of a solution depending on how we look at it. So there is support for more infrastructure and more tourism. There isn't really a plan for it, but as Moochie said, some green avenues would be fantastic. So some hydro and solar. But of course, with more people, there's a bigger carbon footprint. So we kind of need to do some balancing here. One benefit is socioeconomic status for the Indigenous people. So more tourism, they would benefit them. They would get more jobs, more opportunities, and more facilities for themselves as well as tourists. Definitely bolster their economic status, which would be fantastic. And we also need to look at sustainable ecotourism, which isn't just we'll build a huge hotel and everyone will be happy. It's more looking at, does it fit into the landscape? What materials are we using to build it? And how can we get people in and take all the rubbish out and lower their footprint? So we can see, again, with the SDG goals, it would be good for economic growth for the local inhabitants and it would give them decent work. Also related is assimilation. So when a majority culture enforces their beliefs onto a minority culture, the minority loses their identity. We did see a little bit of that with the Orang Asli people. For one, they said that they felt marginalised by the Malay wider community. They sort of felt, we're not as equal And they really wanted to say, hey, we want all the stuff that you guys have, just so we feel like we're on the same plane as you. So that's what also drove them to want better technology, just because they want to say, hey, we're not these simple people. It's just like you. So one direction going forward was co-management of the park with government and the Jahai tribe. So currently they do have rangers, they have park managers, they do have a very active role in the rainforest, which is fantastic. But obviously going forward, the more people that go there, it really is going to have to step up, and we're going to have to, well, not we, but the government is going to have to say, you guys are doing a great job. We really want you to have more of an active role here. So thinking about the future, we'd really like to see the Orang Asli people have more input, because they've been living there for so long. They know the land. They haven't ruined it like developing countries have. So it would be great to see them continue on with their fantastic work that they've been doing there. And it plays a role with reduced inequalities, because like I said, they need to be empowered with protection of the park. And finally, like, what we noticed was a collaborative exchange of knowledge. So we can give them power, we can give them technology, we can give them jobs, which is one thing, it's great. Well, also coming back, they've been living in this forest for such a long time, and they've done it sustainably. So they haven't ruined the forest. It's not them, it's everybody else coming in. So here, like, this is a beehive. They hunt for all sorts of stuff. Here, this bark has been taken off because it contains a toxin, and that's what they use in the blow darts to take down small mammals. And the gentleman on the right there is a fisherman. So these are all sustainable practices, and they haven't ruined anything. And I think we can take a page out of their book and use it as a partnership for the SDG goals. We could learn and say, look, do we really need to print things on paper, like all this sort of stuff? Maybe we can take small steps to say, you know what, let's use something different. Let's not print stuff. That's just one example. Like, maybe, do we need to eat more meat? Could be anything. So I think we can really learn from their way of life. And yeah. And we just wanted to finish like Royal Bellum. We can all love it like it loves us, because it provides us with air, carbon sequestering capabilities, and obviously, you know, who doesn't like a good tree hug? Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, I open the floor for questions.
I think for one, they don't fully understand the sustainability element of it. So as Charlie mentioned, the things in the forest are sort of sacred to them. So we brought in plastic bottles, and they get a little bit upset if you try and take it out. So they don't really understand sustainability and climate change like perhaps we do. They're coming from a different perspective, as though everything's fine in the forest. So I think that for one, it's understanding for the Orang Asli. They don't quite understand sustainability and climate change. So that's huge.
It's also that they've got like spiritual basis for their understanding. So I guess it's kind of like balancing spiritual concerns with, I guess, scientific research. And obviously they are accessing education. There are some gaps. Some do understand Malay. I think there was only a few though. Like Jahan spoke Malay, but even like Michelle mentioned, sometimes it was a bit hard to understand at times. So yeah, I think unfortunately they're doing the best that they can work with. But yeah, there's still a few gaps, fortunately. Do you want to add?
we've added a terrible element into the ecosystem that shouldn't be there. Yeah.
That say if it does achieve UNESCO listing, typically UNESCO affords like an international audience. People go to UNESCO sites. So we can try and expect that people do the right thing, you know, bring in your rubbish, bring it out. But unless there's that, I guess, that understanding that the rubbish is bad, it might not possibly inundate the forest with rubbish from. So I guess it's finding the right balance between getting the amount of tourists that they need and the amount of tourists that's too much. So yeah, that'll be definitely a challenge for them in the future, coming up with, I guess, what the correct amount is there. So currently I do know of JICOA, that's the Department of Indigenous Peoples, I believe it's called. But JICOA basically assists with determining how the Orang Asli live. They have a school there, I believe that's also assisted by JICOA. There is another department, do you remember their name? Sorry, you mentioned there was a specific department when we were there. No, there was another one, wasn't there? Or because it was JICOA and then was it Perak State? KOSD, yeah. Yeah, so there's both those, and basically they assist with providing, I guess, assistance to the Orang Asli from the Malaysian government. There has been a few sources that have said that the Orang Asli actually don't get to consult with JICOA, and that it is typically Malaysian run and not Orang Asli, but that could be because there is a few discrepancies between education and understanding. And also from our perspectives, it seemed that Orang Asli are happy with how they are living, and it's not exactly something that they're particularly interested in. Like they are interested in getting their views across, but they're also happy living their lives by themselves and how it is currently changing. So I would actually say that Australia has a few viewpoints to actually look towards. We don't have anything like JICOA. I mean, we have like Department of Indigenous Affairs back home, but I wouldn't say that, you know, we actually always have the best viewpoints for like our Indigenous people. So even like the earlier time periods for recognition, it seems pretty much like they do get to be self-reliant for themselves, and they also do get to, I guess, exploit the park how they want to. But yeah, I guess that's just from like my outside perspective, that maybe a bit more influence in JICOA would be something that might be of assistance for the Orang Asli. But yeah, I'm also not sure. I'm not Orang Asli, so I can't speak on their behalf. Anything else?
Yes, it's definitely something that they could benefit from, and then it would negate the need for tourism. But unfortunately, the world we live in, like we see these things on any type of media, and people want to go there. So I think it's the lesser of two evils, because we're not going to stop people going to the forest. And when they do, if you can empower people who live there and give them autonomy, which gives them a real sense of purpose. So if they didn't have the jobs, that people would still come and they would be more pushed out. Yes, that's also another thing that has been suggested, and they get paid a weekly sum for permission to come on their land. That is something that I came across, and again, that's what the government policy. So it's definitely something that the government could consider. We could suggest that to them for sure. Yes.
Does own the park. So I'm not sure if it's the same as native title, but from what we could see how it operates, it is similar. They do get to fish in specific areas and things like that. So their rights aren't completely exploited. There's just some areas that they're not allowed to access that are red zones. But in fact, I would actually say that they might actually have a few more freedoms. It doesn't seem like they get moved on. They have been moved on once, but then they've been left largely undisturbed since. And so even though it's changed to their ideas, it seems like they're also, like when we asked them, is there any changes you want? They were very happy. So it was actually quite a different viewpoint to what we've got from back in Australia, where it's often not happiness. So it's hard to assume because we also aren't sure, because I mean, I'm lacking a bit of the background knowledge for the legal system, unfortunately, but from what I could see, I was very surprised to hear that they were very happy because I'm just coming from the Australian perspective of our Indigenous people are not quite so happy, I'd say. Those were the two we heard about.
I felt that they were quite proud as well. So they wanted to welcome people in to say, look at us. This is really good of us doing this stuff. So I think there was definitely, I mean, that's my personal opinion. I got a sense that they were quite proud and very happy to have us there so they could show us what they've been doing. And that, you know, the Malaysian government, this is from their perspective, the Malaysian government and the wider community look down on them a little bit. So I think that was also an element for them to say we're the same, we're proud. So please come back, get more people to come. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. And I guess that's where was it ethnocentrism, where you put your own perspective over someone else's culture. So perhaps that has an element because we're looking at it from our perspective and they're looking at it from their perspective, but there's obviously overlap and differences between them. So if they're saying, please come back because we want you to see us as equals, well, that's great. It's a good benefit, but also coming there is contributing to ruining park. So like you said, you need to find a balance. So, yeah.
In actually educating on sustainability themselves, as they mentioned that they wanted further modernization and money, which were both answers we didn't expect to hear. So yeah, I'm not sure if there's gaps between the support there or when too much is enough, but yeah, that was something that they both mentioned that they wanted and we were very confused at first. But yeah. There are no shops. There is shops, they get shop like money from the actual tourists themselves. So like I believe we paid when we stayed at the chalet. And then they do go back to Palau Bending, which is the actual port area, and I believe there's shops there, but that's still like an hour boat ride from where they're based.
Okay, thanks. I'm not able to hear the other speakers, so I just waiting to get the signal from Sid to talk. Thank you for the presentation and love the photographs, especially the last one with Sid. You'll have to send that to me because I'll have to send it to the team. And so, yeah, Sid has done an amazing job and I'm glad you put his photograph there. That's really nice. I like the way you also thought about how perhaps some technology could actually be useful and beneficial. I think that's a great way you integrated that into the presentation. One thing I really like that you highlighted is how about UNESCO. And sometimes the idea is that, oh, if UNESCO is taking care of it, then everything is good and everything is fine. But you're actually saying, it can also be detrimental to the people. So I'd like you to talk a little bit more about that. And also maybe, do you have any ideas of how things can be done differently by international organizations when they deal with Indigenous communities?
So one of my main ideas was actually collaboration with the Orang Asli itself. I think that's the best practice. So back in Australia, we have like some of the Indigenous have practices where they actually burn the bushland for forest regeneration and aspects like that. As that's, I guess, ancient knowledge that they've had accumulated over 60,000 years. So I guess if we, speak to the Orang Asli about specifics of the forest, because they will be the most familiar with Royal Bellum, I believe that's the best way to go. Because I think, unfortunately, otherwise it's an outsider's perspective looking in and being like, yes, my viewpoint is correct, when you don't have like the nuances behind it or the background of how the actual area operates. Did you guys have any? No? Okay, that was that one.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm sorry, Michelle, you didn't get the worm, but thank you so much for facilitating this trip. And we'll have to do one more so you get your worm. And I also want to know, did you all see the flower?
Dead one. We did see a dead one. It didn't smell, so that was good. Oh, there was, yeah. Yeah, so dead one.
Okay,
Oh,
great.
yeah. Johan also spoke about the sound they make, which was. Oh, do you want to speak? Oh. Are there any other questions? No. No. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation and for the questions. So with that, we conclude the presentation part of their trip, and just a little bit of comments. So well done, everybody. 2 weeks fully packed, especially group 3, you just came back and then have to prepare all this. But I believe that you all have learned a lot, and then this presentation kind of like summarize and put things together. Okay, in terms of climate change, now you can relate all the different aspects of it, and all of it is related to human activity and so on. So the scientists can only do one part, but communicate, and I heard a lot about implementation. So that's one thing that the action that needs to take place as well. So after this, I hope that you stop here in terms of this. Let's continue together, and whichever field or that you can contribute. So together we try to reduce the acceleration of climate change. Okay, thank you. With that, we end the session formally. So after this, we just.
You can, it's just a couple of, if you want to network with each other, talk to the industry partners from other fields, because you never got a chance to talk to other project leaders. So you can just network. And we have a dinner at 6 p.m. So we leave from the hotel lobby at 5:30. Meanwhile, you can just feel free to. Yeah.
Great, Sid, please tell them great job to everyone. And Beta also wants us to say she's very proud of all the students and everyone.
Yeah, they can hear you. Want to say something? They can hear you.
Oh, just that everybody has done an amazing job. Thank you so much. And also Beta wants to say that she's very proud of all of you. And yeah, we are as well. Thank you. And have fun tonight. Enjoy, celebrate.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye, Anita.
Bye.